Hello, I'm Darius Udrys, Vice Rector for Development and Communications at the European Humanities University. Welcome to this EHU Public Conversation, sponsored by Novotel Vilnius Center. Today's guest is Professor Nicholas John Cull, Director of the Master's Program in Public Diplomacy at the University of Southern California. He also edits the journal Place Branding and Public Diplomacy. His advice on issues of public diplomacy has been sought by governments and diplomatic academies around the world. In our conversation, Professor Cull shares with us his insights on country branding. That is, what a country can do to manage its international reputation. And I think a good question to start with, Nick, would be, is there such a thing as nation branding? Can you control, how much can you control what others think about your country?
The claim of nation branding is that you can employ certain communication techniques, design techniques, management to create an image for a country and then go out and convince the world that this is what this country is all about, and I'm not sure that that is actually possible. And so I think you have to be very careful about the concept of nation branding. However, the concept of the nation brand, I think, is not only useful, I think it's undeniable that we all understand that inside ourselves we have quite profound emotional attachment to particular places and associations, both positive and negative, emotionally tied to locations. And these things come out when we make consumer decisions, particularly that we have a particular association with a German car or a camera from Japan. And so this is about our perception, our association of a country with a set of qualities, and brand is a reasonable way of thinking about those, though I'm talking about much more than just a consumer reputation. I'm thinking about a whole range of emotional connections that can include politics, culture, and a wide range of elements. To me, the question isn't, can you afford nation branding or can you afford nation brand management? It's, can you afford not to do this? Because it's not a question of whether or not an image forms. Images form regardless. It is in the nature of human beings to make oversimplifications, to have stereotypes, to have cliches. It has to be based on reality. And not only does it have to be based on reality, but it has to be a reality that the people who live in that country are prepared to stand behind. So I would argue that the most important and least practiced element of brand management is the domestic side, making sure that your people believe in the image or believe in whatever brand is being talked about and are prepared to stand behind it. The way that communication works today, the most important thing is the story, because if you can get a story that's good, that's strong, then the story will perpetuate itself and people will pass a story from one person to another person to another person. So in a way, perfecting a story, perfecting an image, thinking of your image as a story which people can communicate, if it's strong, people will voluntarily pass it on. I think you have to take significance where you find it. But if there's a way in which you can have an underlying structure that would support both technological success and other good qualities,
Culture.
Yes. You need to have an underlying. So, for example, Britain has a brand formula at the moment that emphasizes like 6 things that are great in Britain, 6 or 7 things. So they say nature is great, but also innovation is great. and entrepreneurs are great, and music is great, and these different things.
The great being Great Britain.
Being the great of Great Britain. So you see great written very large, and then Britain is written underneath, and it's a way of saying all of these diverse things which may be unconnected to each other come together in Britain. These different components, that's the job of the president or the very top of the government. It can't be done from lower down in the government. But the brand is also everyone's responsibility. Every citizen has a stake in the brand and has a duty to uphold those qualities that people emphasize within the country. So where there is a negative aspect that can come through, it's up to citizens to say, well, this is not who we want to be. Do you see what I mean? To try and everybody has a responsibility. If you want to have a brand that is inclusive, it's the duty of people to be inclusive, not to say, oh, why isn't our president inclusive? Or if the brand is going to be about innovation, you can't expect the president to be innovative. Everybody has to be innovative. Communications is evolving away from the time when all communication was filtered through nation states to a time when networks are increasingly powerful, and we get our information from networks. The people we trust, the people we know through networks, maybe even we trust people we know in our professional networks over and above our own governments, or our religious leaders, or other people who would historically have been powerful. This is the nature of our world. That being true, that being said, if your nation does not have a great reputation because of its government, you can still, as an individual, participate in a network and carry forward the reputation of the people. Yes, so you can separate the state. So you can have a bad state reputation, but a great reputation of individuals as being valuable members of networks. Better stories to tell about Belarus, like the story of the growth of the computer industry in Belarus, and I hope that at some point that story can flower rather than come and look at the last dictatorship in Europe. One thing that I can see is very clear in Lithuania is that this country is a very green country. This country has sound agricultural policies. This country has great attention to the environment, and that this is something that Lithuanian people care about. And so I do think that there's a possibility of having emphasizing Lithuania's affinity with nature and its sustainability in a brand. And I think that that would be an important thing to talk about internationally, that story would be relevant to other countries, and Lithuania could be virtuous to other countries, and also has a role in leading discussion or facilitating discussion. It can say, look, this is something that we care about, let us help you care about it too, why don't we all talk about this? And not to say Lithuania would dictate on the issue, but could facilitate and be a useful country, helping the world think more clearly about sustainability. The other thing is that it's also clear to me that Lithuania is a great team player. And not all countries can do this. Not all countries are team player countries. Some countries are prima donna countries. They want to be the only country doing a thing, and if they're doing the thing, they have to say, look at me, look at what I'm doing. And I don't get that feeling from Lithuania. I think that the EU presidency, I think Lithuania's role in NATO, I think that Lithuania's role within the Nordic countries, within the Baltic region, and also its attention to its neighbor to the east, all suggest Lithuania as a team player country. My friend and colleague Simon Anholt, who's one of the pioneers. He's actually the guy who came up with the idea of the nation brand. He says that nations are like stars. Now, you know, when you look at the stars in the sky, what you see is how that star was however many hundred, even thousand years ago, when the light was sent from it. And it's the same with nations, that what we see when we think about Canada today, a lot of what we see is the light that was sent out in the 1990s that's still with us. And it's important, if you are a nation with a positive identity, to keep doing things for a kind of brand maintenance.
I hope you enjoyed this EHU Public Conversation. Please join us again for discussions with prominent individuals known for their thoughtful application of ideas from the arts and sciences. So long, and thanks for watching.